Hello everyone and welcome into another edition of WST Weekly. My name is Hrabchak. We've got a few things to touch on this week. The Bombers returned from their bye and traveled to Edmonton to take on the Elks, and they came away with a massive victory in the CFL's West Division. And the Winnipeg Jets returned to the ice this week. Training camp is underway. Huss and Remus were live from FanFest on Saturday, and we have a few preseason games to talk about. I'm going to cover it all here on this episode. Like the video before we get into it, and let's talk about the Bombers' huge win over the Elks on Saturday night. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers picked up their 6th straight win, this one coming against the Edmonton Elks 27-14, continuing their winning ways off of that Labor Day Banjo Bowl back-to-back wins over the Riders. Heading into the bye, they traveled to Edmonton against the other hottest team in the CFL, the Edmonton Elks. Ever since they started Trey Ford, got rid of Chris Jones, they've been one of the best teams in the CFL, so this is an impressive win on the road for the Bombers. And if you take a look at the numbers behind me here, they really tell the story of this game. The net yardage, pretty even. First downs, pretty even. The sacks, 2-1 for the Bombers. And then the turnovers, 6-1. Edmonton turns the ball over 4 times in the first half, and the Bombers only lead 3-0 at halftime. That was going to be the story of this game, but then the second half played out the way it did. But that first half was one of the worst halves of CFL football from an entertainment perspective this season, especially in one of the Bomber games. But that second half, both offenses woke up a little bit. The Bombers defense continued their strong performance in that half, and the Bombers came away with their 6th straight victory, maintaining their number 1 spot in the CFL's West Division. And with the loss of Chris Streveler during that Banjo Bowl game, a lot of Bomber fans were concerned about the short yardage, backup quarterback, who was going to handle those responsibilities, and it was Brady Oliveira. The Bombers kept Zach Collaros in the game for most of this one and just handed the ball off to number 20. He had a fantastic performance. I'll talk more about him later on when I get to my 3 stars of the week, but he got 2 touchdowns this week. It was his first 2 touchdowns of the season. He hit 1,000 yards on his first touchdown run as well, so crossing a few milestones there, but finally Brady Oliveira is in the end zone. He's got the monkey off his back. And this was just the first game of a home and home between these two teams. Obviously now it'll shift back to Winnipeg. Friday night, Princess Auto Stadium, Bombers vs. Elks should be another great game at home for the Blue Bombers. And if you were wondering why these two teams were scoring all the way to the final buzzer, even when the game was well out of hand, Brady Oliveira got his second touchdown late. The Elks scored a field goal and a rouge very, very late in this game. It's because these 2 weeks, these 2 games are the only 2 games that the Bombers and Elks are going to play against one another this season. So since the Bombers are at 8 wins and the Elks are at 5, it would take a lot of standings, a slide from the Bombers, the Elks with a massive winning streak for a tiebreaker to come into play. But if they do need it, the Bombers want as many points as they can to get that head-to-head point differential over the Elks. 27-14. So if the Bombers do lose Friday, but it's by less than 13 points, then they'll still have that tiebreaker over the Edmonton Elks in the season series. Again, they won this game. They're at 8 wins, and the Elks are at 5, so they shouldn't need it barring a collapse. But it's always good to have when the West is as close as it is this late in the season. And here it is, the Winnipeg Jets news of the week. Like I said to kick off the show, they began their training camp this week. It was great to see a ton of fans down at the Hockey for All Center for the practices, for FanFest, watch the players skate, do some media. It was a fun weekend altogether. But what's not so fun, and the top storyline of the week, Ville Heinola. This came as a shock because he was skating on day 1 alongside Colin Miller in what would have maybe been the Jets' third pairing. But Scott O'Neill revealed Friday afternoon that Ville Heinola has an infection in his ankle, the same ankle that he broke last year and had surgically repaired. They found an infection, so he's going to be out a little bit longer than day-to-day, Scott O'Neill said, and they're unsure of what a timeline might be. This could be long-term, this could be a few weeks, a few months. We're really unsure at this moment, but your heart breaks for Ville Heinola, who made the team for all intensive purposes last year out of camp and had a great chance to do it again, or at least earn a full-time role this season, and now another setback for that ankle. Number 2, Cole Perfetti. Another thing that's kind of looming over training camp is the fact that he is not there. He remains unsigned, and as we get into the next week, some cuts are going to start happening here after the 2 preseason games. It's really a matter of when Cole Perfetti is going to sign as we get later and later into the preseason. Number 3, the Winnipeg Jets had 2 preseason games this weekend. Their first one was at home inside Canada Life Center against the Minnesota Wild, and they unfortunately dropped this one 5-2. A lot of excitement was around this game because the roster was full of high drafted prospects in the Jets system, but again, they lost. And then on Sunday, they traveled to Edmonton, a different playing group altogether, but they dropped that one as well, 3-2 in overtime. Capo Kakkonen got the start on Saturday, and then Eric Comrie got the start in net on Sunday as those two battle for the backup goaltender positions. Number 4, there is a new Winnipeg Sports Talk show on our YouTube channel, and it has a heavy Jets focus. It is called WST Sunday Live. I am the host, and I am joined every single Sunday at 9 a.m. live on the YouTube channel by Liz Hood. Her and I have done the WST deep dives before, so WST fans will be familiar with her. And Jacob Stoller, he is covering the Winnipeg Jets for Sportsnet this year, a Big J journalist, so I'm super excited. We had our first episode Sunday at 9 a.m. If you missed it live, go check it out on the channel, but if not, set a notification so you get that reminder next Sunday at 9 a.m. when we go live to talk Jets. Now it's time to shift into the 3 stars of the week, but before we do that, if you're enjoying the video so far, hit the like button down below. I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss videos like this and all the other great content we're putting on the WST channel in the future. I mentioned the deep dives, the WST Sunday Live, Huss and Remo, they're going live every single day, 1 to 3, CFL 110. We're really branching out with the amount of shows that we have here on the channel, so that notification bell will make sure you don't miss any of it. As for this video, let's get into the 3 stars of the week. My 3rd star of the week is Blue Bombers wide receiver Ontario Wilson. He was their leading receiver in this game. He had 5 catches, 55 yards, and a really nice touchdown that got the Bombers on the board in this game. I mentioned when I was breaking down the game how sluggish that first half was. To start the 3rd quarter, Ontario Wilson caught a pass from Zach Collaros, made a few defenders miss, and fought his way into the end zone. He has been such a great find for the Bombers this season, such an incredibly talented receiver, and that was on full display on Saturday night. He is my 3rd star of the week. My 2nd star of the week, and honestly, I could hear an argument for him being number 1, is Tony Jones, Bombers linebacker. He had himself a heck of a game on Saturday night. Look at the stats behind me here. 6 tackles. He had an interception, a forced fumble, and a sack. Just an absolute force all over the place on the defensive side of the ball. And the Bombers defense has really carried them through this 6-game winning streak. Tony Jones stepping in this game, played a fantastic game, filled up the stat sheet. He's my 2nd star of the week. My 1st star of the week is the guy who finally found the end zone this week, Brady Oliveira. He had 20 total touches, 138 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and 7.1 yards per carry. He passed the 1,000-yard mark on his first touchdown of the season, which that stat doesn't even feel real that he had no touchdowns up until this point, as we all know how vital he is to the Bombers offense. And that last stat that you see behind me here, 7.1 yards per carry, I think is the most important stat here. The Bombers, when they can give the ball to Brady, get 7 or 8 yards on first down and stay ahead of the chains, limit their turnovers, that's when their offense is at their best. And Brady Oliveira, we know he's going to be a big part of the offense, but that specifically down the stretch here and into the playoffs is going to be how the Bombers control the clock, let their defense do work, and run the ball effectively. Brady Oliveira, super vital to the Bombers offense. He had himself a heck of a game on Saturday night. He is my 1st star of the week. Here it is, the upcoming sports schedule here in Winnipeg over the next week. Like I said earlier on, that Bomber game was the first of a home and home. Princess Auto Stadium is the place to be Friday night, September 27th, when the Bombers take on the Elks. Once again, 2 of the best teams in the West. The Bombers definitely have the best argument as the best team in the Western Division. But the Elks, are they number 2, number 3 with BC? That one is more of a question, but should be a great game regardless. The Winnipeg Jets, their preseason continues. They'll return to Canada Life Center Wednesday night, September 25th, and they'll take on the Edmonton Oilers, who they just lost to on Sunday in overtime. And last but certainly not least, it's the final week of racing at Assiniboia Downs. They'll be racing Monday and Tuesday, so if you haven't been out to the track all year long, this is your last chance to do it. Final week of racing at ASD, Monday and Tuesday. That's going to do it for this edition of WST Weekly. Thank you so much for checking out the show. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, the subscribe, and the notification bell. Like I said earlier, tons of great new content coming to the channel this upcoming Jet season that you're not going to want to miss. That notification bell is going to ensure that you don't miss any of it. As for this episode, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next Monday morning on WST Weekly. Have a great week, everyone.